1837, Oberlin College becomes the first university to admit female students. 1884, one woman, Minnie Miltmore, valedictorian, graduated from the University of Southern California as a part of their inaugural class of 3. 1972, Title IX, the On the Basis of Sex Discrimination Prohibitive Educational Amendment for institutions receiving federal funding, was ratified. 2020, the USC Office for Equity, Equal Opportunity, and Title IX was established. Now it's 2025, and I'm your host, Rachel, a current female-identifying student at USC. And so welcome to Finding Feminism. I've mentioned all of these dates to put in perspective USC's lack of history of institutions supporting its female-identifying student body. They've forgotten their roots. I myself am a recent addition to the Trojan student body. I transferred from the University of California, San Diego to USC this spring. At UCSD, they had a women's center, and this is a space that was a real keystone for me in finding my own community on campus. Could just chill there in the space all the time to study. You knew there was just going to be women surrounding you, and access to tampons and all these other things were just readily available in this space, and they had regular conversation about different feminist topics going on, especially right now under Trump's presidency and this general political attack on female autonomy. And having a community space to where I could talk about these things and feel solidarity with other women was intrinsically important to my experience on that campus. And I'm finding a frustration at that lack here. USC has what they call a student equity inclusion program, which encompasses their affinity centers. Additionally, there is sororities, in which are all female-oriented orgs, but though I myself am a member of these orgs, I do find that Greek life culture itself and sororities too fall under this, that they become victim to the patriarchal view of what women should be and how they should act, and typically don't offer as much of an opportunity to have conversation around women's issues itself because of the more institutional red tape of what it means to belong to a sorority and that you're representing this collective group rather than the own individual a lot of the time. And so while this is a great option and why I myself am a member to participate in female-oriented spaces, it does not provide as much of a room to experience that similar solidarity and struggle that it means to be a woman right now in 2025, where we have this ongoing attack with this traditional trad wife core and other norms of expectations of women, to where it doesn't feel like we're being uplifted. And another interesting thing is that USC itself got in trouble with the OCR, the Office of Civil Rights, part of the Department of Education previously, for not being compliant. An article from Inside Higher Ed, written by Marjorie Valburn, reveals an investigation by the Fed's OCR found the university, quote, failed to protect its students from a sexual predator employed as a gynecologist at the health campus center. Additionally, U.S. Secretary of Education Betsy DeVos said, "This total and complete failure to protect students is heartbreaking and inexcusable," and that too many at USC turned a blind eye to evidence. As we can see, there is a history at USC of them downplaying women's oriented issues, Title IX, on the basis of sex discrimination, and other assault-based violences are particularly women's issues in that they disproportionately affect women compared to men and other identifying folks at USC's campus. As demonstrated by the article previously mentioned, this perpetuation of sexual assault and these violences has been long-standing at USC. That cases that gynecologist has had reports as far back as 1989 was only brought to light in 2019. Expose, an investigation from the Office of Civil Rights at the U.S. Department of Education. But who knows, with how the Trump administration is trying to dissolve the Department of Education, as well as equity and diversity, inclusion initiatives, what the real long-standing accountability measures will be for USC. So what it really comes down to is USC student population holding the university accountable for uplifting and supporting its female students. We can see some student action taking place at the campus through the mass protests a couple years ago on USC's graduation of sexual assault at its Greek life row.
We received an email from USC letting us know that there were a lot of reported incidents from SIGNU of sexual assault. There were tips about how to avoid being assaulted.
Which is particularly why I want to hear from students on the ground keeping USC accountable and finding their female-dominated spaces at this campus. So now let's hear from USC's female student leaders and how they themselves are fighting back against the university's history, and who better to hear from than those involved in Greek life and who helped stand up against these issues. So please welcome for our first interview of the episode, Tri Delta's president, Maya Gentry. Hi Maya, thank you so much for coming on my podcast today. I'd love to just give you a little moment to introduce yourself to everyone at home.
Yeah, absolutely. I'm super excited. So my name is Maya Gentry. I am currently the president of Tri Delta at USC. I'm a junior studying communication in Annenberg, and I'm also a fashion minor in Roski, which has been super exciting. And I was actually initiated into Tri Delta at the University of Wisconsin-Madison. So I have a bit of a unique perspective on different Tri Delta chapters, what Greek life looks like in different places. And yeah, super excited to be able to share a little bit.
And I guess through that transfer experience, what made you want to stick with Tri Delta at USC, and kind of how did you experience the difference between what your other school had to offer for their community versus USC's?
Fair warning, I'm going to gush a little bit about this because I had the best experience transferring. So I was fully immersed in Greek life at Wisconsin, but ultimately I didn't feel like Wisconsin as a university was the best fit for me. All I remember doing is when I got to USC, I came to the chapter house and I knocked on the door. I was like, hi, I'm a Tri Delta at another school and I just transferred. And I was absolutely welcomed with open arms. It was something that made me feel so special and like I belonged right away. And so that is something that I think is a testament to the community and the relationships that you can make here and the specialness of it. It's just a welcoming environment that aims to empower women. That was a really great experience. And that's actually what led me to want to be president, is the fact that girls were so welcoming immediately. I wanted to be able to continue that in my position as president.
That's really well said. I mean, it's definitely inspiring to hear how you found Tri Delta here at USC. Like you said, becoming president now and wanting to continue on that amazing culture that you found in both chapters of Tri Delta. Specifically, as you're president now, what's it like being a part of an all-women's group at USC, and how does that make you feel?
I think that it is really important that these spaces exist. The first sororities were created to be spaces where women have housing available to them in a male-dominated sphere that was a higher education at the time, super male-dominated. And so that's kind of where sororities were rooted, was being these spaces for women to come together and achieve things that weren't accessible to them and have a support system to do so. But what's so special about our chapter is that there's a really diverse group of women with different majors and different passions. And so that is something that is so inspiring to me about Greek life, getting to represent this group of girls who are anywhere from aeronautical engineers to studying theater to studying cinema, art, getting to help facilitate a space where people feel supported in those things is really special to me.
You kind of touched on this a little bit briefly at the beginning of that last question. Specifically, sororities are a bit more prey to the patriarchal's normative perspective and expectations, just through the lens of how society views us and things, and exclusivity and stuff. How do you feel like you're able to cultivate a unique and inclusive culture at Tri Delta and the Pan-Hellenic community in general, that one that inspires and empowers?
Like I said, the first sororities were created to be spaces for women to have community on campuses that were that had limits on housing, and there were spaces for empowerment in a sphere that was male dominated. Since that time, Greek life has obviously been subject to stereotypes increase. Some common stereotypes surround hazing, which is absolutely an issue at some schools, but that is not the overwhelming truth. Another one is sororities are only for wealthy students and they're elitist. Greek life is absolutely expensive and not available to everyone, but it is becoming increasingly more accessible financially. And I can speak to Tri Delta's national work on this, and there are scholarships, there's emergency funding, there's alumni support. And so working to combat these stereotypes is really important, but there's obviously also a history that needs to be acknowledged as we continue to make further strides, especially regarding inclusivity. Greek life has a history of being very discriminatory and exclusive. That is absolutely true. And that's a history that members should totally be informed about. And at my chapter of Tri Delta, we do make sure that we do that education to continue to foster an inclusive environment while acknowledging the past. At Tri Delta, I have a brilliant team of women who work with me to make sure that this space is as inclusive as possible. And that includes a wellness team who are very aware of the different resources available to students at USC or Tri Delta. We have a DEI AB committee, a housing committee who, when we fill our chapter facility, they look at need-based situations. We have academic committees and more. And these are what really help us empower and support our members in the best way possible.
Yeah, that's really well said. I guess to end it off here, in what ways do you feel like you yourself have been impacted as a woman by your experience in Tri-Del and at USC?
Being in a sorority, especially Tri Del, has given me a space where I feel safe to pursue different interests. Being around a group of women who are also in the same position as me when trying to assert themselves, going into the workforce, there's issues that surround equal pay. So, having workshops on how to have those conversations, being around women in similar situations, it's really a supportive environment that helps us to feel seen amongst ourselves. But of course, there's other events like sisterhood events that just kind of foster community among us sisters as women. Getting to form relationships with other women is really, really important. And of course, in my experience as president, getting a leadership opportunity like this as a woman, I feel so grateful and so lucky to have been able to do it. And I also think that I have the opportunity to set an example that women are able to lead with strength and compassion and purpose and foster an environment where people can thrive and kind of remind people that a woman can do anything she sets her mind to. Easy as it sounds, but I absolutely believe it to be true.
Thank you so much, Maya, for coming on to do this little interview here for the episode. I really appreciate what you had to say about your experience in sorority fraternity life at USC and as my president in Tri Delta. It was really great to have you on, and thank you so much for coming.
Of course. Thank you for having me.
It was so lovely to hear from Maya about her experience in sorority life, and particularly as the president and one cultivating and actively creating safe spaces for women of support and solidarity on campus. Now, our next interview will be featuring another amazing, strong female leader who can really dive into how she helps cultivate these spaces as well. So please welcome Soler Perez.
Hi, my name is Soler. I'm a sophomore here at USC, and I'm so excited to tell you about Girl Gains.
So, Soler, can you tell me a little bit what Girl Gains is and a little bit about the organization?
Yeah, so Girl Gains is a student club here on campus. I want to start off by saying Girl Gains is a national chapter, so over 100 schools in the US actually has a Girl Gains chapter. So yeah, we're nationwide, and what we do, what our mission is to empower women in and outside the gym. And primarily, we started off as a women's weightlifting club. So, like I said, our mission is to just make women feel more confident and empowered to enter male dominated spaces such as the gym. And we also partner with a lot of USC affiliated organizations such as sororities and the Break On to Salsa Club here on campus. So we do an extensive amount of events that can really cater to everyone's interests. But not only do we do that, we have member bonding events where we come together and make cute bracelets or write future letters to ourselves to see all the progress that we've accomplished. We also have that big little pairing system, which is really nice to have girls be able to connect with a mentor who may have a little bit more experience, in their working out journey. And that has been really helpful and has connected a bunch of girls. We also do guest speakers where we bring guest speakers in to come and talk about, the science behind working out. We've had USC alum come and speak and really just motivate the girls, inform them, and educate them. And I think that's a really important part of women's fitness is to debunk, these stereotypes and myths about fitness that we hear all the time on the media. And I'm just so happy to see what it's become and super excited to see what it will become.
That's really cool, Solaire. I mean, what led you to joining Girl Gains? Like, how did you find out about the organization?
I started working out. I started my fitness journey back in 2020 when COVID had hit, and I didn't realize that the women's fitness industry and how big it was and how supportive it was. I didn't find that out until maybe a year or two after I started working out. So I think my fitness journey was very isolating, very lonely. Taught myself everything I knew essentially, and I taught myself a lot of what I learned from TikTok. And it was a great starting point for my fitness journey. So I just fell in love with weightlifting, but the problem was that any gym I walked into, I felt intimidated. I felt small. I just felt as if I couldn't take up space. I felt bad for taking a bench press instead of letting the guy waiting for it instead. And those feelings were feelings that I just didn't want to have to feel. I wanted to feel confident in wanting to be healthy and move my body. And so I came to USC. I was walking around the involvement fair back in the fall as a freshman, and SC Girl Gains was tabling at their event. And they were like, "We're SC Girl Gains." And I was like, "What is that?" And they explained to me everything I explained to you about their mission is to empower women in and outside the gym, especially in university and college campuses. If you
Mhm.
think, commercial gyms are bad, no, you step onto a college gym and it is 10 times worse. And I definitely think that, the co-presidents saw my passion, my dedication for this club. Like I said, I fell in love with weightlifting. I have fallen in love with the gym. And if it wasn't for this club, I probably wouldn't have continued with the gym into college. And then here I am. I said yes. Like I said, always looking for leadership opportunities, but more than just that, like that, this club has become my passion. I tell the vice president, like, I feel like I wake up and I breathe Girl Gains. Like, I'm always thinking about what are the tasks that we're doing today? What organization can we reach out to today? What workout do the girls want to do? Oh, let me text my littles. Let me check up on them to see how they're doing. Or I'm over here texting, the national co-founders. Hey, like, how can I help you guys? I literally like wake up and I live and breathe Girl Gains, and I would not want anything less. I call this club my baby sometimes because I have seen it expand from 30 active members to now over 100 in just a semester. That's what really keeps me going, and seeing other women feel so confident and learn things about their body that they may have not known that their body was capable of, and being able to step onto USC's gyms with, confidence, empowerment, and the comfort to walk into that gym and realize that they deserve space just as much as anybody else
Mhm.
does, whether it's male or female. Like, we all deserve space in the gym.
To add on to that, how do you find yourself kind of taking ownership over leading this all women's organization? Like, how do you feel as like being this, as you kind of shepherd to these 100 other active members and through this like big little system too, like leading other women and navigating this process, especially as we've mentioned how typically weightlifting is such a more male-dominated space in navigating those factors. So, yeah, if you kind of speak to how you kind of cultivate that unique culture and how you empower women to break those like gendered norms and stuff.
Yeah, I think for me, I've learned that confidence is key and you have to lead with confidence. If, I'm a little on the reserve side and I don't speak out for what I think is right or I don't speak my mind, what does that say to the members of the club, right, that are looking to find this empowering, confident environment? It starts with who you're around. And I
Mm,
think the extensive array of different events that we have, I think is so important because it makes girls feel confident that they can really achieve anything, especially for the first time. And it's so funny because as president, I think people think, I'm this like big old bodybuilder and do competitions and I'm probably one of the shortest people, like, you'll meet. Like, I'm very small, I have very small, like, frame, and so I have to really compensate for being on the smaller side, and through that, like I said, I think leading with confidence is key. I walk into that gym, and I will choose any machine that I want, and I will not feel bad about it, but will I completely give up my workout for, a male because they think they have the right to machine because the gym has been a predominantly male space? Absolutely not. That is what Girl Games is about, is for girls learning that they have the right to take up space in these male dominated fields just as much
mm,
as anyone else does. And I think with that though, like there's an issue of these stereotypes that women are supposed to be frail and gentle and look all cute and be as
mm,
light as a feather. And I think this club really helps to break those stereotypes. Women tend to neglect their own personal goals for the idea that they have to fit into this standard of what society puts upon us. And
mm,
this club helps to break down those perceptions of what women have to be or need to be or expected to be. Women are just allowed to take up space in a male dominated area, do whatever workouts they want for however long they want, look however they want to look, lift as heavy or not as heavy. It's literally just a woman's choice and whether or not, they want to lift or not. Like I said, it's all just about the confidence that they have the choice to do so. And it's just so nice to be able to see these women in the club grow from, being a very shy, reserved member, not really knowing where to start in the gym, from them
mm.
coming out and they're posting their gym pumps, they're taking up space, they're teaching new members, they're lifting they're lifting splits, and it's just amazing to see that growth within the club. And I hope that as president, I can, share my story about being very, very scared and intimidated of the gym to now being able to walk into a gym with my head held up high and be proud of who I am and what my intentions are in that male dominated space.
Oh, yeah. I mean, there's a reason why I asked you to be a part of this podcast, Blair, because I knew you and Girl Games were doing some really groundbreaking work, to really help women on this USC campus feel at home in themselves and, help carve out a space for true, authentic expression and fitness in a way that not many other places are doing right now. So I guess to build off that, how do you think like the campus and USC perceives what you guys are doing?
Well, I would hope that USC views this club as beneficial. USC is very supportive of that in terms of, inviting us to go to the USC like women's basketball game.
Mhm.
They gave us free shirts and we were able to promote our club and that was a great opportunity. So, yeah, USC has been very supportive of who we are and what we do, and I hope that we can continue to foster that positive relationship between the campus and SC Girl Games.
That's really great to hear, Solaire. I mean, USC itself sounds like it's making a space for Girl Gains itself as an organization. Obviously, um, as we've heard throughout the rest of this podcast episode, it's not the same for every other like female space. Like there is a balance, right, of finding how you yourself as students can support other women, but on administrative lens and other things like that, of like different gaps and areas where USC could be supporting women more. And so I'm glad to hear that right now their support has been overwhelmingly positive for Girl Gains, and the fact that you guys were invited out to a basketball game. And I know you mentioned to me too that other professors and things have helped like hold these workshops and stuff, and it sounds really amazing that you've been able to find this space and help grow it at USC. After hearing from both Maya and Solera, it becomes blatantly obvious that the women here at USC are trying their hardest to carve out a space for themselves. And successfully so. What both Girl Gains and sororities are doing on campus provide a necessary substitute for the lack of administrative support for its female student body. And so if there's anything you should take away from today's episode, it's that us women will never give up on cultivating and carving out a space for us. We will find our feminism, we'll find ways to uplift each other. Whether or not, heck, even the presidency supports those ideas, there will always be solidarity amongst us women. And I hope that this enlightens you to maybe take a second look at the spaces you surround yourself with. Are they inclusive? Are they representative? Do they support people the best they can? Because that's what's needed right now, is a driving force for change. So go out there and start something.